Hey, what's up? I'm Guy. That's John.
Yes, it is. Podcast, YouTube channel. Give us a like on the channel. Podcast below in the description. Get on it. Do it now.
All right, Middlecoff. The Raiders beat the Broncos in a thriller to finish the season. But when you think we're going to zig, we're going to zag. I said to John after the game was done, what do you want to talk about with the Raiders? And you said, I have a very positive angle on the Raiders today. And that is?
Yes, well, the first time since Gruden arrived, and he arrived, this is going to be his fourth offseason. For 3 straight off seasons, Guy, Derek has been a conversation. Would he stick with Derek Carr? Did he like Derek Carr? The last couple of years, did Derek do enough? Even last year when his stats were good, just stats look better than the eye test. I thought he was excellent this year. I thought he was really good. He was, unlike the last couple of years, even though even last year wasn't all his fault. He left a little something to be desired. This year he played winning football, and it was 100% clear him/the offense is the least of their worries. Their last, let me start rattling you off. Starts with the Chiefs game. Here's what the defense gave up: 35, 43, 28, 44, 30, 26, 31. So I would imagine, doing the math off the top of my head, probably about 32, 33 the last, stretch of the season when they were playing for the playoffs. It's just, that ain't getting it done.
No. I saw you tweet something on Sunday, and I thought it was a great point. Nelson Aguilar has this great relationship with Derek, but you've used 2 significant draft picks on receivers. We didn't get to see a ton of
I thought about it when Bryan Edwards scored the touchdown in the back of the end zone. It's like, you not only drafted Ruggs in the first round at number 12. This guy, part of being a good drafting team, it's like, you don't pay Aguilar $10 million. And someone was like, well, Terrell Williams is coming off the books. Well, what do they need help on? You're equipped on offense.
Defense. But the problem is, here's what you know. You know Nelson Aguilar is good. Now, this is not about Nelson Aguilar. My point is just, one way or the other, I think for Derek Carr, one of his big priorities has to be that next year when the season starts, him and Henry Ruggs hit the ground running. Because it might be that the Raiders are thinking about their team the same way you just described. They'd love to have Aguilar back, but does it make sense when they've spent these 2 draft picks? I kind of feel like they're going to bring him back, because that's, if they bring him back, you'll know who did it, right? Gruden. Of course he did. He's in charge. Part of the reason we can have this conversation today about how good it is that we're not having the Carr conversation this offseason, because we're not, is because their season's been done for 4 weeks. It'd be nice, week 14 is when you talk about the season ended. I mean, you don't prefer that, but their season ended 4 weeks ago, John. In the 3 years since Gruden took over, he has been the only coach of the Raiders. Duh. The Browns have had 4 different coaches in those 3 years, because Greg Williams coached not quite half a season, right? Remember, Hugh got fired with 5 or 6 games left in the year, maybe more.
No, I remember. I thought it was relatively early, maybe halfway through.
Yeah, the point is this: the 4 coaches the Browns had won more games in 3 years than John Gruden won. They've had an incredible amount of inconsistency at head coach. Hugh, Greg Williams, Freddie Kitchen, they finally found their guy in Stefanski. If I told you when the Raiders hired Gruden, the Browns are going to have 4 head coaches in the next 3 years, who's going to win more games? Never in a million years would you have said the Browns.
No.
Well, now you've got Carr looking good, and it turns out the problem is bigger than just quarterback. Much bigger. And I'll give Gruden some credit on Carr looking good, right? That is part of why you hired him.
100%.
But now it's about John Gruden, the GM, figuring this thing out.
I completely agree. I mean, you got to get better on defense, and I do think it is nice just to go into an offseason and not have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But I also think you do some, you reflect and go, like you said, you've kind of been out of it for a while, and just the math, you really weren't close. You finished 3 games behind the 7th seed. 3's a lot, right?
3 is
a lot.
Especially when you were in the mix.
Because I think you would just most 7 and 9 teams are not viewed even close to as equal as 10 and 6 teams, right? If you go 7 and 9, you don't go, we almost got there, like that 6 or 7 seed, the 10 and 6 team. And most times, a 6 seed can be 10 and 6 historically, but that 7 and 9 team never feels close to their equal. like the Raiders, you feel kind of good, but really the separation was pretty wide. And we saw the worst of the bunch kicked your ass, right? Kicked your ass would be strong. The Dolphins beat you. And then the Colts, who are the 7th seed, destroyed you. So that would, and clearly like the Ravens are better, right? You beat the Browns, but they're just going to be better over the season because I like Stefanski more. They won way more games. So like the head-to-head really only matters if we have the same record.
Yeah. And you don't have
and
close to the same
they had 3
record.
more wins. No.
And again, 3 games out, it's one thing when you were 3 games out the whole way. That's also bad. But they were in the playoffs and finished 3 games out.
Yeah.
And I think
I think universally felt just, the Raiders are going to go to the playoffs this year.
I think there'd be some Yes, it was over. I'd stopped worrying about, how were they not going to make the playoffs? And I think there are probably a good number of Raider fans, just judging from the DMs I've gotten over the weeks, that wouldn't even agree with the fact that John Gruden, the coach, it's not the issue. It's John Gruden, because John Gruden, the GM, is who needs to step up. Because there are a lot of people don't love his play calling. Now, whatever, that's a separate issue. But here's one thing we know: his quarterback can do whatever he needs him to do. They got to figure out. They have got to figure out Ruggs. They have got to do it. That has to be their top priority.
Yeah.
Offensively with Derek.
I think for the first time in those 3 years, like, they're not going to do this. If Derek Carr was available, people would be lined up, right? Like the Colts would move on they would go after the Steelers. Like he would just have the Bears, like a ton of teams.
49ers?
Yeah, he'd be a massive upgrade. I just think the team, like he's a valuable NFL player right now. And so you're right. Gruden has turned him into a valuable NFL asset. The problem is like the defense gets worse and worse. Like if you could just line it up, you'd be in pretty good shape, but it doesn't feel like close to being lined up because they're going to do a total reset. So it's just,
but they're not going to do a total reset because that's not what Gruden's about, which I don't blame him. This is year 4. This isn't year 2.
And you're kind of stuck with some of the young rookies. Like they're not going to go anywhere.
And you got a brand new stadium that you got fans coming to. Like,
I guess on the bright side of the brand new stadium, at least you score points. At least you're an entertaining team, right?
You just got to be a player. You can't.
No one gives a shit about 8-8 entertaining.
Yeah, forget about any of that. You can't go 4 years without making the playoffs on a $100 million coach.
And not even close to the playoffs, right? It's not like, they went 11-5, guy, and they got left out. That would suck, but there would be a legit excuse. Like there are no excuses. It's like, no, your defense sucks, and that's on you. You're the boss. You had a decade to figure this thing out. You chose all these players.
Yeah, who do they hire as the defensive coordinator?
I honestly don't know. It doesn't feel like Rod Marinelli is just going to be a lock to get it. I just think he'll just go back to defensive line and they'll hire someone.
Yeah, well, he shouldn't be a lock to get it.
Yeah.
But it's like, are they going to get somebody?
Raheem Morris, I think, will be in the mix.
That'd be great.